be better?
No. I'll do another one.
You want the kartal?
Just start singing. Those recording has begun.
Oh. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutane Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunjavani Paschalchadechatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayadvaita Swami Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama, Hare Hare.
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य सूत्र शत शिष्य भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य सूत्र शत शिष्य भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णविंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्तविंद की जय। जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। All glorious to assemble devotees, all glorious to assemble devotees, all glorious to assemble devotees. Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Radhesha Prabhu. Thank you for Ananda Prabhu for the kirtan, and welcome everyone for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Monday, March 4th, 2024 in New York, and tonight we're picking up with Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 28, text number 42, if my notes are correct, and I hope that they are. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So tonight Kapila Dev is speaking about how one should see. Sarva Bhuteshu Chatmanam Sarva Bhutani Chatmani Ikshitananya Bhavena Bhutesh Viva Tadatmatam. A yogi should see the same soul in all manifestations, for all that exists is a manifestation of different energies of the Supreme. In this way, the devotee should see all living entities without distinction. That is realization of the Supreme Soul. As stated in Brahma Samhita, not only does the Supreme Soul enter each and every universe, but he enters even the atoms. The Supreme Soul is present everywhere in the dormant stage, and when one can see the presence of the Supreme Soul everywhere, one is liberated from material designations. The word Sarva Bhuteshu is to be understood as follows. There are 4 different divisions of species: living entities which sprout from the earth, living entities born of fermentation or germination, living entities which come from eggs, and living entities which come from the embryo. These 4 divisions of living entities are expanded in 8,400,000 species of life. A person who is freed from material designations can see the same quality of spirit present everywhere, or in every manifested living entity. Less intelligent men think that plants and grass grow out of the earth automatically. But one who is actually intelligent and has realized the self can see that this growth is not automatic. The cause is the soul, and the forms come out in material bodies. Forms come out in material bodies under different conditions. By fermentation in the laboratory, many germs are born, but this is due to the presence of the soul. The material scientist thinks that eggs are lifeless, but that is not a fact. From Vedic scripture, we can understand that living entities in different forms are generated under different conditions. Birds evolve from eggs, and beasts and human beings are born from the embryo. The perfect vision of the yogi or devotee is that he sees the presence of the living entity everywhere. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistang Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Prabhupada mentions a number of different things in this verse. He picks out the word sarva bhuteshu and talks about the different species of life and how a learned person sees the same quality of spirit soul everywhere. One word that struck me in this verse was ikshate, the seeing. And of course, the seeing that Kapila Dev is speaking of is not just the cognition of light reflecting off a surface and you picking up an image on your retina, but a way of seeing that implies a certain understanding of what's going on. So there's the process of cognition, which is just physical, and then there's the process of recognition, which involves a lot of other more subtle processes going on there. And it's something that requires training. Just like a flight instructor, the first day you go onto the airplane, you see just a dazzling array of gauges and knobs and readouts and levers. And the flight instructor has to tell you, this is important for this is important for that, this you don't have to worry about, this is extremely important over here. So in the same way, to have this vision of the spirit soul, we absolutely require guidance. We require spiritual guidance so that we know what to look for. We understand the significance of what we are seeing. We know what to do to keep our vision clear in terms of cognitive principles so that we don't mess up our vision. And of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives the example of dust on the mirror. There's too much dust there, you just see murky, hazy images. You don't see what's actually there. But genuine spiritual guidance is required for us to see what's there and for us to know how to interact with what's there and what to avoid. So thank you. And Maharaj, we were hoping that you would kindly speak on this verse.
In the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvabhuta Stamatmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshana. Quite similar. One sees in Krishna in all living entities and all living entities in Krishna. Because Yoga Yuktatma, this is at the end of the yoga system. We've been reading about the yogi and how he meditates limb by limb and how he fixes his mind. So in the Bhagavad Gita also, that parallel description is there, how to practice the system of Ashtanga Yoga. And then at the end, this statement is there, Sarvabhutas Tamatmanam Sarvabhutani Jatmani Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshana. One sees everywhere equally the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sees the Lord within everything or within everyone. Sarvabhuta. Bhuta means living entities, or Bhuta can mean all that comes to be, all manifestations. So he sees Krishna within everything, within all the living beings, with all the non-living beings. And he sees all of these within Krishna. Yo mam pashti sarvatra sarvam shamai pashti tasyaham na pranashyami sachame na pranashati. For one who sees everything in Krishna and Krishna in everything, Krishna is never lost. He's never lost to Krishna. In this way, the mature yogi is always in Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Saraswati Mata says, pranams. What does it mean that the Supreme Soul is present everywhere in the dormant stage?
Well, it means we're dormant. Be interesting to, yeah. It means we're dormant.
Srila Vishwanath Thakur comments that he speaks about Paramatma here very clearly. And specifically, he says that contemplating that Paramatma is different from all else, one should see him as the cause and ultimate resting place of all things. One sees Paramatma in all beings because the cause is present in the effect. One sees all beings in Paramatma because all of the effects merge into him at the final destruction of the universe. And finally, he says, regarding this phrase, tadat matam, he says that means made of the 5 great elements. And Saraswati Mata goes on to say, sorry, but does it mean we are dormant because we cannot see the Lord and his energies everywhere?
Yeah.
Jai. Maury Gupta Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhu. He says, Hare Krishna to all. Is it technically possible for scientists to create an environment of matter that will be conducive for a soul to enter, giving the illusion that they have created life.
Yeah, you create a nice warm house, I'll enter it. Then if you want, you could think you created me.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. That brought to mind for me, if I could say the example of a gardener who gets his soil just right, the good light, good water, and then life comes.
You know, the logic of the scorpions and the rice. Once on the dock, there's a big heap of rice, and one sees scorpions crawling out of it. One thinks the rice has created the scorpions.
All right. So we can move on then to text number 43. And let's see. Okay, verse here. All right. Dana Mataji, are you available to read this evening? Would you like to read text number 43?
Yes.
I wasn't sure if that was an affirmative or a negative.
Can I get you on the next one?
Yes, sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rod, thank you. Ross Prabhu, would you be able to read text number 43? All right. Oh, he's on the move on a train. Sorry, Prabhu. All right. No problem. Radhesha Prabhu, are you still there? Are you still able to vocalize? Can you read text number 43?
Sure.
Jai.
Svayonishu yata jyotir ekam nana pratiyate yoninam guna vaisham yat tatatma prakritaustataha. As fire is exhibited in different forms of wood, so under different conditions of the modes of material nature, the pure spirit soul manifests itself in different bodies. This is almost very similar to the verse I read last time. Purport. It is to be understood that the body is designated. Prakriti is an interaction by the three modes of material nature. And according to these modes, someone has a body, and someone has a small body, and someone has a very large body. For example, the fire in a big piece of wood appears very big, and in a stick the fire appears small. Actually, the quality of fire is the same everywhere, but the manifestation of material nature is such that according to the fuel, the fire appears bigger and smaller. Similarly, the soul in the universal body, although of the same quality, is different from the soul in the smaller body. The small pieces of soul are just like sparks of the larger soul. The greatest soul is the super soul, but the super soul is quantitatively different from the small soul. The super soul is described in the Vedic literature as the supplier of all necessities of the smaller soul, Nityo Nityanam. One who understands this distinction between the super soul and the individual soul is above lamentation and is in a peaceful position. When the smaller soul thinks himself quantitatively as big as the larger soul, he is under the spell of Maya, for that is not his constitutional position. No one can become the greater soul simply by mental speculation. The smallness or greatness of different souls is described in the Varaha Purana as Svanksha Vibhinangsha. The Svanksha soul is the supreme personality of Godhead, and the Vibhinangsha souls, or small particles, are eternally small particles, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Mamai Vangso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. The small living entities are eternally part and parcel, and therefore it is not possible for them to be quantitatively as great as the supersoul. So actually, the last time when my verse was similarly describing the fire present in different forms like burning wood, I quoted Dhruva Maharaj's verse, and it's even more applicable here. Na-neva darushu vibhava vibhasi. That because it's quoted by Srila Prabhupada basically in the purport that the log and the stick are burning, but different quantities are there. The only difference is that in Dhruva Maharaj's verse, it's specifically applying the principle to the manifestations in the material world appearing differently, just like the shape of the fire is appearing differently according to the material burned. In this purport, Srila Prabhupada seems to be emphasizing the greatness of Krishna and the smallness of the living entity. So the actual size of the soul itself, Krishna is great and we are small. And yeah, we're under the control of material nature. And I'm reading in Sri Krishna Lila Stava. Krishna, one of Krishna's names is Pradhana Purusheshvara. He's the Lord of material nature. Mayadhyakshena Prakriti Sute Sacharacharam. So he's guiding everything, and we are, if we're fortunate, choosing to be under the guidance of Krishna. Otherwise, we'll be forced to be under the guidance of material nature. So, yeah, if there's something more to be said, I'm ready to listen.
Thanks so much, Radhesha Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj, would you be willing to speak on this verse?
I'm willing, but I don't think I have anything to add here.
Srila Vishwanath has a brief comment I thought was interesting along with what we've already heard. He's speaking of he says the one fire and various types of wood is perceived to be various because of different qualities in the wood. It may have long or short wood, crooked or straight wood, with different odors and colors. Similarly, the Paramatma, though residing in different bodies, is one. All right. All right, Krishna. Dana Mataji, are you able to read text number 44?
I'm almost home. Hang tight. I'm almost home.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to catch you while driving. Sorry, no problem.
No, it's okay. Oh, sorry. I thought I would be home by now. Sorry.
Nope. Thank you. Be safe. All right. Saraswati Mataji, are you there, or would you be able to read text 44?
Text 44. Tasmadimam swam prakritam devim sadasadatmikam durbibhavyam parabhavya swarupena vitishtate. Translation. Thus the yogi can be in the self-realized position after conquering the insurmountable spell of Maya, who presents herself as both the cause and effect of this material manifestation, and is therefore very difficult to understand. Purport. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that the spell of Maya, which covers the knowledge of the living entity, is insurmountable. However, one who surrenders onto Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, can conquer this seemingly insurmountable spell of Maya. Here also it is stated that the Devi Prakriti, or the external energy of the Supreme Lord, is Durvibhavya, very difficult to understand and very difficult to conquer. One must, however, conquer this insurmountable spell of Maya, and this is possible by the grace of the Lord when God reveals himself to the surrendered soul. It is also stated here, Swarupena Vitishtata. Swarupa means that one has to know that he is not the Supreme Soul, but rather part and parcel of the Supreme Soul. That is self-realization. To think falsely that one is the Supreme Soul and that one is all-pervading is not Swarupa. This is not realization of his actual position. The real position is that one is part and parcel. It is recommended here that one remain in that position of actual self-realization. In Bhagavad Gita, this understanding is defined as Brahman realization. After Brahman realization, one can engage in the activities of Brahman. As long as one is not self-realized, he engages in activities based on the false identification with the body. When one is situated in his real self, then the activities of Brahman realization begin. The Mayavadi philosophers say that after Brahman realization, all activities stop, but that is not actually so. If the soul is so active in its abnormal condition, existing under the covering of matter, how can one deny its activity when free? An example may be cited here. If a man in a diseased condition is very active, how can one imagine that when he is free from the disease, he will be inactive? Naturally, the conclusion is that when one is free from all disease, his activities are pure. It may be said that the activities of Brahman realization are different from those of conditional life, but that does not stop activity. This is indicated in Bhagavad Gita 18.54. After one realizes oneself to be Brahman, the devotional service begins. Mad bhaktim labhate param. After Brahma realization, one can engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, devotional service of the Lord is activity in Brahma realization. For those who engage in devotional service, there is no spell of Maya, and their situation is all perfect. The duty of the living entity as part and parcel of the whole is to render devotional service to the whole. That is the perfection of life. So I was actually reading about, just a second, about the three different kinds of energies that the Lord has, the internal, the antarni energy, and the we as the marginal, the tasta energy, and then of course the Maya is the Bairangi, the external energy. So we've been reading right up until now how we are the marginal energy, and our constitutional position is to serve Krishna. So Jiva Swarupe, Krishna Nitya Das, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells us. So that is our natural position, and when we are not in that position, then we are basically under the illusion of Maya and serving our senses, which we think is the actual goal of life and can bring us ultimate happiness. But we know that no matter what you do, even the small, meager happiness that you can get from sense gratification comes with a whole ton of suffering. Even to taste a little bit of happiness, you have to put in so much effort, and consequently there's going to be some form of suffering that is going to accompany that. So also it talks about how the Mayavadis, they are only interested in Ikavalya, merging into the Brahma Jyoti, which they think that is the ultimate goal of life, because they are under the illusion that by doing that they can become the Supreme, by merging into the Supreme. And we know that desires, one of the qualities of Jiva is to have desires, and to artificially extinguish desires is not really possible. Even a person who's in a diseased condition of life. If their gross body cannot supply, if they cannot use the gross body as a tool for sense gratification because they're in a diseased condition, you know that the subtle body, the mind, intelligence, and false ego is completely active, and they're using that tool. You can't switch that off. So one way or another, desire is a quality of the jiva, and therefore you cannot really say the jiva can be switched off and be turned off from all desires. That's not possible. Whether you're diseased, whether you're in the conditional nitya bad, or whether you are liberated nitya mukta, your desire, it's just a case of whether you're going to desire to serve yourself or you're going to desire to serve Krishna, which is your eternal position. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Saraswati Mataji. Maharaj, we'd be happy to hear from you on this verse, if you'd like to share.
The parallels are there to two verses. The first is Daiviyesha Gunamayi. So we see this interestingly, Sadasadatmakam, Atmikam, rather, that material nature consists of cause and effect. So that's seen in the material world, the network of cause and effect. Durvibhavya, and it's difficult to understand the complexities of material nature. We want to, Prabhupada said, win over material nature, exploit the resources, but we can't even understand material nature. So where's the hope? Then Parabhavya Swarupena, sorry, people are doing something there. My mind just skipped. Yeah, so then Brahmabhuta Prasanatma Shochati Nikakshati. One comes to the spiritual platform, but Prabhupada's emphasis is always on this point, that when we come to the Brahmabhuta platform, the spiritual platform, then we have to go further to take part in the activities of Brahma. And that's where the Maya bodies, of course, are lost. For them, there are no activities. When one attains Brahman realization fully, then there's all activity is over. But for the devotees, activity begins. Brahmabhuta prasanna samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktin labhate prana. After attaining perfection in Brahman realization, then the next stage is to realize Krishna. Muktir yadvanyata rupam swarupene vivastati. Praveen's quoted that liberation means getting free from our false form and being situated in our real form. Muktir yadvanyata rupam swarupena vivastati. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. So it looks like we've come to the end of that chapter. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, 28th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Kapila's Instructions on the Execution of Devotional Service. And next, chapter 29, Explanation of Devotional Service by Lord Kapila. He's got texts 1 and 2 together. And we're wondering if Dana is still driving or if she's able to.
I made it. I made it. I'm driving. Okay. Here we go. Devahutir uvacha lakshanam mahad adinam prakriti purushas yacha svarupam lakshyate misham yenata paramartha pratikam yata sankayashu tatitam yan mulam tat prakshate bhakti yogasya me marjam ruhi vishatarasha prabhu. Translation. Devahuti inquired, "My dear Lord, you have already very scientifically described the symptoms of the total material nature and the characteristics of the spirit according to the Sankhya system of philosophy. Now, I shall request you to explain the path of devotional service, which is the ultimate end of all philosophical systems." Purport. In this 29th chapter, the glories of devotional service are elaborately explained, and the influence of time on the conditioned soul is also described. The purpose of elaborately describing the influence of time is to detach the conditioned soul from his material activities, which are considered to be simply a waste of time. In the previous chapter, material nature, the spirit, and the Supreme Lord or Supersoul are analytically studied, and in this chapter, the principles of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service, the execution of activities, and the eternal relationship between the living entities and the personality of Godhead are explained. Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, is the basic principle of all systems of philosophy. All philosophy which does not aim for devotional service to the Lord is considered merely mental speculation. But of course, Bhakti Yoga, with no philosophical basis, is more or less sentiment. There are two classes of men. Some consider themselves intellectually advanced and simply speculate and meditate, and others are sentimental and have no philosophical basis for their propositions. Neither of these can achieve the highest goal of life, or if they do, it will take them many, many years. Vedic literature therefore suggests that there are three elements, namely the Supreme Lord, the living entity, and their eternal relationship, and that the goal of life is to follow the principles of bhakti or devotional service and ultimately attain to the planet of the Supreme Lord in full devotion and love as an eternal servitor of the Lord. Sankhya philosophy is the analytical study of all existence. One has to understand everything by examining its nature and characteristics. This is called acquirement of knowledge. But one should not simply acquire knowledge without reaching the goal of life or the basic principle for acquiring knowledge, Bhakti Yoga. If we give up Bhakti Yoga and simply busy ourselves in the analytical study of the nature of things as they are, then the result will be practically nil. It is stated in the Bhagavatam that such engagement is something like husking a paddy. There is no use beating the husk if the grain has already been removed. By the scientific study of material nature, the living entity, and the supersoul, one has to understand the basic principle of devotional service to the Lord. Wow. There's a lot there. I really do love that it just always brings it back to like, okay, let's put this into action. You know, like we can sit and we can read and we can acquire knowledge and we can learn, but okay, what do I do with that? And so I think even like with my own experience, it was like not until like actually like doing service, chanting, being with other devotees, did it start to kind of really start to like make sense rather than just like sitting and reading the books or which helps immensely, right? Like that's like the first, like once you first reading, it's like, whoa, like mind blown. But then it's like when I put it into action, it was just like this whole other level. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, that's my take so far. Love to hear from others and Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. That certainly does make sense. I think that's a lot of our experience, if not all. Maharaj, would you care to comment on this verse?
Yes, let's see. We've heard about Sankhya, the various divisions of material and spiritual elements where we've analyzed things. But finally, this is all meant for bringing us to the platform of devotional service. And Prabhupada references that verse by Lord Brahma, that Shreya Srutim Bhaktim Udasyate Vipo Klishyanti Ye Kevala Bodha Labtaye Tesham Aso Kleshala Eva Shishyate Nanyadyata Stula Tushavagatina. The Shreya Srutim Bhaktim, path of devotional service, is the best path for spiritual realization, the most fortunate path. But those who are unfortunate, udasya, giving up that path, klishyanti, they simply struggle. Bodha labtaye, kevala bodha, for impersonal knowledge, or simply for knowledge for its own sake, or knowledge of oneness. Klishyanti, klesho dikataras avyakta sakta cetasa. Trying to become attached to something impersonal, they undergo so much trouble. And the example is given that they're like the person who's husking an empty rice paddy. You husk the rice to get the grain. The grain's already gone. What will you get? All you get is your trouble. So that's the position of the impersonalist jnanis. They miss the ultimate point. So here, Devahuti particularly wants to hear about bhakti yoga, process of devotional service. Without bhakti yoga, everything else is useless. Even the yoga system, we hear some bhakti has to be there for success in any kind of yoga. But bhakti yoga doesn't need anything else for its own success. So Devahuti wants to hear particularly about bhakti yoga.
Jai Maharaj, thank you. There's quite a bit in the chat window. Radhesha Prabhu posted, Nasadyatimam yogo nasankyam dharma udava nasvadhyayas tapastyago yata bhaktir mamorjita. My dear Uddhava, the unalloyed devotional service rendered to me by my devotees brings me under their control. I cannot be thus controlled by those engaged in mystic yoga, Sankhya philosophy, pious work, Vedic study, austerity, or renunciation. And Prabhin Krishna quotes, Shreya Shriting Bhaktin Udasyate Vibho, Klishyanti Yekevala Bodha Labdhaye, Tesham Asau Kleshala Eva Shishyate, Nanyadyata Stula Tushavagatinam. And Anantashesha Prabhu says, for me, reading Prabhupada's books helps me from going after other books. And a question from Saraswati Mata. I'm wondering what it means to say that others are sentimental and have no philosophical basis. There are devotees like Shabri in Ramayan, who is completely illiterate, uneducated, and maybe not so philosophical, but she is a pure devotee.
Yes, that may be there. The general idea is that simply sentiment won't help us. Some people just go by their intellectual speculations, and some people go by their sentimental whims. So neither of those paths will help us. But philosophical knowledge that culminates in Krishna consciousness will help us, or attraction to Krishna on the basis of feeling will also help us. Hope that helps.
Hi, Maharaj. Thank you. Murray Gupta Prabhu asks, are the rank and file of us in ISKCON performing devotional service, or are only the great devotees performing devotional service and we are assisting?
If you're assisting, that's devotional service. Everyone's assisting. The great devotees are assisting, and we're assisting them. So where's the question then? Everyone's assisting, and we're assisting the assistants, or the assistants of the assistants.
Thank you. And Saraswati Mata says, thanks for your answer to her question. And let's see what we have next. Our text number 3. There's only 10 minutes left, and usually we like to get. Oh, wait, Mora Gupta Prabhu has, the question is over the Brahmabhuta platform. I'm sorry, the question is over the Brahmabhuta platform. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure that I understand what the question over the Brahmabhuta platform is. Would you like to fluff that out?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It's
Hare
that
Krishna.
the devotional service starts from the Brahmabhuta platform, but we're doing devotional service even though not at that platform.
Even though
Even though we're not at that Brahmabhuta platform.
why not? We're supposed to be. As soon as I understand I'm not this body, I'm supposed to be on the Brahmabhuta platform. Brahmabhuta platform, from the point of view of devotional service, that's like elementary stuff. Nashochati, Nakanchati, not to hanker, not to lament, but just to see that I'm spirit soul, and beyond that, that I'm part of Krishna. So why not Brahmabhuta?
Well,
Or from another point of view, if your Prabhupada gives this reading of Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, if you're performing devotional service, you've already surpassed the Brahmabhuta platform. Just like if you've got a PhD, it's understood you've already got an MA, or you've already passed out of high school. If someone's performing devotional service to Krishna, he's already beyond the Brahmabhuta platform. The great Brahmavadis, they're still trying to realize Brahman, but they've yet to come to the platform of devotional service. But even the neophyte devotee has surpassed the Brahman platform. He just needs to remain fixed on that platform by continuing devotional service.
thank you, Maharaj. That's very reassuring.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Murray Gupta Prabhu. And Radhesha Prabhu quotes, Eho Bahya, Age Kari Ara. And Saraswati Mata says, so there can be Uttama Adhikari that may not be so highly philosophical or educated in the Vedas, but are completely surrendered to their guru's instructions, like Shabri.
Advanced devotees, perfect devotees, there may be. But let's see, let me look at her question down there. Yeah, the general definition of Uttamadhikari is that he's conversant with the Vedic conclusion. But the other side is that there may be perfect devotees who are perfect without, what would we say, need of philosophical, sophisticated understanding. But we shouldn't take it lightly that therefore I don't need the philosophy, I'll just be like Shabri. We're recommended to try to understand everything philosophically also.
Thank you, Maharaj. And Ananta Shesha Prabhu sent me a quote that he was not able to post in the chat here, but it regards the discussion of the unhulled rice and the empty husks of rice. This is Srila Prabhupada writing to Professor Fritz Stahl, who was a little bit stalled in his own understanding of Bhakti Yoga. Prabhupada says to him, the unhulled rice and the empty husks of rice look very much the same. One who knows how to get the grain out of the unhulled rice is wise, but one who beats on the empty husk, thinking to get some result, is simply wasting his labor uselessly. Similarly, if one studies the Vedas without finding the goal of the Vedas, Krishna, he simply wastes his valuable time. Thank you, Natashesha Prabhu. And we have reached 7:55 Eastern Daylight Savings Time, and looking to see who would like to lead our closing kirtan this evening. Radhesha Prabhu led our opening kirtan. I could prevail upon him again, but that might not be fair. Sorry, Ananda Mataji led. So if Radhesha would like to lead this time, that's cool. But someone should, and soon.
Come on, Hawaii.
All right, we'll lead again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramamsa Pravratikacharya Sutra Shata Shishima Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramamsa Pravratikacharya Sutra Shata Shishima Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jamuna Maya Ki Ganga Maya Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to some of devotees. All glories to some of devotees. All glories to some of devotees. Nitai Gaur Premanandi.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Radhesha Prabhu and clan. And thank you everyone for being here for Srimad Bhagavatam class. Especially Maharaj, thank you so much for being with us again. Thank you everyone for reading and participating and asking. And Hare Krishna to you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Jai.
Gaur Premanande.
Hari 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 Bol.
Haribol Maruti.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maruti. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.